Welcome back to Wild, Wise and Curious, Embracing Our Journey, where we're excited to continue the conversation around all things peri and beyond. We'll continue to explore all our stories, challenges and importantly the wisdom we learn along the way. As usual, we'd love to chat with women just like you who might like to share your own perimeno or post-menopause stories with us. We can't wait to chat with you. Welcome to Wild, Wise and Curious. Today we're chatting with Lisa. It's lovely to meet you, Lisa. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, you're absolutely welcome. I'm glad to be here. And thank you for welcoming me on your show.
Oh, bless you. No, thank you very
Happy
much
to
for
be
joining
here.
us. Right.
First and only question really is, how did you come to realise that you were in perimenopause?
Well, I'm not in perimenopause. I'm in surgical menopause.
Okay, you need to tell us more about that.
I will. So, crikey, where do I start? So, I suppose I'll start at the very beginning, really. So, I started my periods at the age of 11. And from the age of 11, I just had the most horrendous periods. And I suppose I grew up, I was born in 1974, so I'm 51. And I suppose growing up in that kind of 80s, 90s, it was very much what I was experiencing. It was very much, this is what part of being a woman is, and I had those conversations with my mum about heavy periods and all the PMS symptoms and it was just very much, this is what women go through. And which is strange because my mum went through a lot regarding periods, and she had a total hysterectomy when she was 49. She had endometriosis, so she was navigating her own menopause, so to speak, whilst I suppose I was quite young. And so I had an awful time of it. And then when I was pregnant with my girls, I've got two daughters, 26 and 29. When I was pregnant with them, I felt great. It was probably the best time I'd ever felt. And I was probably that annoying pregnant woman who just looked great. I had great skin, I had great hair, and I just looked, felt amazing. But as soon as I had the girls and I went back to having periods and just battling with messy hormones every month and flooding and passing clots, it was just a life of being on iron tablets. I was severely anemic and I had no quality of life.
Okay.
And it was very much back to the doctors I went, prescribed more tablets. Then I was prescribed tranexamic acid, and I took loads of those every time. And it was just messy. It was just no quality of life and just messiness, to the point where I actually booked an appointment to see a GP. And I was 42 at the time, so this had been going on for 30 odd years.
Wow.
A long time, and me just accepting that this is just what women go through. And it was horrible. It was just absolutely horrible. And I booked an appointment this time to see a male GP, and I don't know why I booked to see him. I just felt that he would get it. And because I knew him and he was just somebody I gelled with, and he just said to me, no, we need to investigate this. And so off I trot. I get investigations, and they diagnosed me with complex endometrial hyperplasia. I was also diagnosed with polycystic ovary syndrome, and I was told I had a very thick, bulky uterus. And I had originally gone in to have an ablation. That's why I was having all these tests done, because to see if I was a candidate for an ablation, which I was then told I wasn't a candidate for an ablation because of having endometrial hyperplasia. So I said to the consultant at the time, so where do we go from here? And she was very firm with me and said, your best option is to have a total hysterectomy with a bilateral supingo-oophorectomy. And otherwise, in 6 months' time, you could be walking around in the community with a full-blown endometrial cancer.
Wow.
So straight away, we hear those words, don't we? Straight away, we hear those words. So I remember getting into the car with my daughter, and she was probably 18 at the time. And I said, I really don't know what I'm going to do here. She said, you've got to have the surgery. You've got to have it. And I remember her saying to me, "You've got to have it because I need my mum."
Oh, bless her.
And that is all it took. So my girls at that point were 18 and 21, and my youngest daughter said, "I need my mum. I need you here." So I was told to ring this consultant back up at the end of the week and tell her of my decision. In the meantime, I woke up the following morning and I just thought, what am I doing? Is this the right advice? Am I really going to have endometrial cancer? She was very hard and, very direct with what she was saying. And I felt like I didn't, I don't know whether it's just me, but I didn't know whether I trusted her diagnosis. Your mind goes into this weird spiral, I think.
Yeah.
I think many of us do. We go from 0 to 100 in seconds, and it's just so massive what you're being told. So I had a phone call with my GP and I said, look, this is what I'm being told. And they were able to access everything on the NHS system, and I went through it with them, and they said, look, I think this is the best thing for you. And I thought, okay, this is the best thing for me. I'll sign me up. In a nutshell, I want a quality of life back. I don't want to be sat here in 6 months' time with full-blown endometrial cancer. I just want my life back. I want my quality of life back. I was existing and not living, and my life was just always around heavy periods, passing clots, feeling ill, being anemic, palpitations, and everything else you can imagine. Okay. So 6 weeks after this appointment with my GP, I signed all my forms and off I trot to have a full hysterectomy with my ovaries removed. I remember that day. I remember that morning like it was yesterday, because it was a very surreal morning, and it was a beautiful September month. September it was. It was autumn. Signs of autumn everywhere, and I'm very in touch with Mother Nature, and it just. If I didn't know where I was going, I could have been going off on holiday that day with my husband. It was such a nice drive to the hospital, and the sun was rising, and it was lovely. And then, obviously, I got checked in, said goodbye to my husband, and that was one of the most hardest things I've ever done, because we've never really been apart. And off I trot, and I go down for surgery, and I wake up. And I'm back on the ward sort of 3 hours later, waiting to see my husband and my girls, and that's where it kind of all started for me. And it has been a massive journey, because that was 8 years ago now. Okay. And I've got to be honest with you, I was that woman who thought, I'm not going to be defeated by this surgery. This is going to be a new lease of life for me. I'm not going to have periods. I'm not going to feel ill, and and how wrong I was. The first few weeks I thought, I'm going to embrace this recovery. This is not going to take over my life. And I was that stupid woman again that wanted to get walking.
Yeah, we do, don't we?
And it's major surgery, right?
Yeah. So you've had major surgery, and there was me thinking, no, I can do this, I can do that. But within 24 hours, symptoms started. They started, and they came fast and furious. And I always knew that I was going to go on to HRT. And the reason for that was because my mum went into surgical menopause at 49, and she was of that generation where HRT had such a bad reputation, and she did not want to use HRT. She was scared of HRT. She was afraid she was going to get breast cancer, all the things that we have, we know are wrong. And then I lost my mum when she was 64. And although I can never, ever say it was because she had that surgery, she had a lot of health issues after her surgery that she couldn't get under control. And now that's just her story, but she had so many of the symptoms that I had, and I just, looking back now, knowing what I know now, being 51, being in surgical menopause for 8 years, you know, running a support group for 4,500 ladies like myself,
Wow.
menopause training and everything,
Yeah.
and menopause space. I just wish she would have had HRT. I think it would have made a massive difference to her life. Would she still be here? I don't know. But in my heart, I think she would be. So I always knew that I wanted to go on to HRT. So after about 2 or 3 weeks, I waited for histology reports to come back. And in the meantime, the hot flushes were horrendous. The sleepless nights, the symptoms really came. And I, from within about 24 hours of going on HRT, my symptoms disappeared.
Wow.
And
Wow. Okay.
and I was very fortunate because at the time I was prescribed a 100 microgram patch by my GP.
Okay.
And I think that kind of saved me, but it was short-lived.
Okay.
Because just when you feel that things are getting better and you have these little glimmers of hope that things are improving, you then went back down a rabbit hole, basically. Well, I say I went down a rabbit hole. And it's funny, actually, because looking back now, I can see quite clearly that all those symptoms that I was having, and there were some crazy symptoms that I didn't even think were hormone related. I just thought I was losing the plot.
Yes.
And I had this conversation this morning with my husband. I said, you know, when I look back on those symptoms that I was having, it was probably easier for me to think I was just losing my marbles, because they were so strange. You know, tinnitus, feelings of my skin crawling. It was just like I was permanently crawling in ants, that feeling. You know, I had a headache that was so bad for about 6 weeks, chronic, severe headache, and to the point where my husband had to take me to hospital. I was admitted. I had a CT scan to see if anything really sinister was going on, and there was nothing. So there was just so many symptoms that just made me feel that I was losing the plot. That's the anxiety. The anxiety was awful, to the point where I didn't even want to go on holiday. I didn't want to even go to the shops. I didn't want to leave the house, and it was really, really difficult. And I think these are the things that we don't talk about when it comes to menopause. It doesn't matter how you've arrived at your menopause, whether it's, you know, whether it's surgical or any kind of, however you've arrived at your menopause destination, shall we say, it's not easy for a lot of women. And that's what we really need to be talking about. So I plodded on for about 6 years, and it was 6 years of suffering, little glimmers of hope every now and again, and then I just thought, I can't do this anymore. Now, unfortunately, we are in a situation at the moment, and especially on the back end of the Panorama documentary, that dosages of HRT are really being, I hate to say it, but for many women, I think, are being very much restricted. Now, when you're in surgical menopause, it is very different from a natural menopause. Surgical menopause, though our symptoms are very similar, what I see within my group of ladies is the severity of them. So I suppose in a natural menopause, you have that steady decline of your hormone levels. Whereas with surgical menopause, your ovaries are removed, and then it's basically not a steady decline, it's a plummet. It really is. You know, your main source of hormone production has been removed. So it's difficult. So we see a lot of women experiencing quite severe symptoms. And for a lot of ladies in surgical menopause, what we need, and myself included in that, I needed to get my hormone levels back up to being optimal for me. And the only way, unfortunately, and it pains me to say it, the only way that could happen for me was to go private. It shouldn't be the case.
No, it shouldn't.
Absolutely bloody shouldn't be the case, because women's, we say it a lot, 51% of the UK population are women. We're all going to go through menopause. It doesn't matter whether that's surgical, natural menopause, we're going to go through menopause. The support and help should be there for all women.
Of course it should.
The world is alive and at the moment with this whole menopause movement, and I think it's absolutely amazing and I love it. I love that women like us come together to talk about menopause. It's a much needed conversation. But when it comes to surgical menopause, it's very misunderstood, because women in surgical menopause are often treated by their GPs as if they're in a natural menopause, which is doing women a disservice, really, in surgical menopause. So I had no choice but to go private. And within about 2 months, I was on a good regime. And that's how my life started. My life after my surgery started. Yeah. It shouldn't be like that. No. It should not be like that. Women should be having the help and support that they need to help them thrive. We need healthy, happy women, and we should not be denied anything that makes our menopause happy and healthier and manageable. That's what it comes down to.
Can I ask, Lisa,
sure.
when you were even talking in the initial stages about having the surgery, what kind of conversations were the consultants having with you about what to expect with this surgical menopause?
Right, well, this is quite, I have to laugh now, but it's it's laughable. I was told I might go into menopause. And it's mind blowing, isn't it? Going into menopause. And I just thought, okay, so I might go into menopause. Bear in mind, I didn't know. I knew about menopause, but I never even heard the word surgical menopause. I only got to know about surgical menopause probably a month or two after I had my surgery.
Okay. And you said you went into, you started having symptoms from like 24 hours straight after. So all of a sudden, not only are you dealing with this massive surgery, all of a sudden you're having all these symptoms as well, and nobody had given any indication of what might happen.
No leaflet or anything, no booklet to come home with, no websites to look at. Oh, it's absolutely insane, isn't it?
It's absolutely bloody ridiculous, because the horrible thing of all this, that my surgery was 8 years ago, this is still happening to women now.
Yeah.
This is, I support a lot of ladies, and when they tell me, I have just had surgery, I knew nothing, my GP told me nothing, the consultant told me nothing, and you just think, how can this be happening still 8 years after my surgery? You would like to think that we've moved forward a bit.
But it doesn't sound like we have, does it?
And it doesn't. So I feel, as well as my ladies, we feel that we are very much a forgotten side of menopause. We talk about, and we are so happy about, we're as women, we're all so supportive of other women. Yes. Menopause is shite. It's absolutely shite. But a lot of people don't understand surgical menopause, and it goes back to what we were saying earlier. Unless you actually are going through it yourself or know somebody who's going through it, I suppose in a way we're quite naive to it. I was very naive to it. The only person that I knew that had had my surgery was my mum, and she wasn't here to help me to have those conversations. So I was very much, I didn't have any friends who had had my surgery. In fact, during the whole recovery, I actually lost friends. That was the sad thing, because I was now 42, nearly 43 in surgical menopause, and a lot of my friends weren't even experiencing symptoms of perimenopause. Yeah. So it was almost like I went in this 42-year-old woman and came out this 70-year-old woman. Yeah. And but I think what is really important is that this is not the story for every woman who has this surgery. I would say a massive percentage of the women that I work with, it's not fun. It's tough. It's bloody tough. And there is that small percentage of women who absolutely thrive after their surgery. But I think, it's everybody. It goes back to what I was saying. It doesn't matter how you arrive at menopause. Every woman is completely different.
Of course.
And we need to just embrace that, because I think whether you're in a natural menopause or surgical menopause or a chemical menopause, it doesn't matter how you've arrived at your menopause journey. We need to be looked upon as individuals, so that every woman has individualized support and treatment. And that is just not what we're seeing at the moment. And that needs to change.
Yes.
So that's why I ended up being in surgical, and I'm still in surgical menopause, because, as you probably are aware, it's a forever state. So for me, I'm on a good path now, because I have the right regime, and it's taken probably, I would say, the last 2 years has been great for me. My levels are at optimal levels. I have a good whack of HRT. I'm on testosterone. I have topical estrogen. So I'm in a good place. But it's really difficult when I still hear ladies saying that their GPs won't prescribe them vaginal estrogen. There's absolutely no reason why a woman cannot be prescribed vaginal estrogen by their GP. And so, we just need to carry on having the conversations. We need to carry on educating as many people as possible in all things menopause. And for my ladies in surgical menopause, if we can keep on having that big conversation about surgical menopause, you never know. You never know if you are going to become one of those ladies that will end up needing surgery, the kind of surgery that I had.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, off the top of my head, I'm not quite sure of how many total hysterectomies and oophorectomies were carried out last year. But, I'm seeing it more and more, and I'm seeing it more and more in younger ladies as well. Yeah. And I think it's an absolute worry that the advice that I was given 8 years ago, or lack of advice, that's still very much the situation now. We have a long way to go for women's health and menopause, but surgical menopause, I think it's just, it's a very, very difficult space, I think, at the moment.
Well, my nan had a full hysterectomy. I think she was in her 40s. And crikey, she would be around, 100 or so now, but this is going back like 60 years or so. And my mum remembers, because she lived at home, and my nan had just had a massive, what they called then a nervous breakdown. And she went on to HRT. But at the time, it was the HRT that wasn't all that amazing. And then she had other health scares, so she came off the HRT. And then, she said to my mum she never wanted her to go on HRT. And so mum didn't go on it. And then I had really bad anxiety and panic attacks and irrational thoughts and all this crazy shit going on that I had no idea what it was. So I was like, okay, I will go on it. But obviously it's come on in leaps and bounds. But like you, I ended up going privately because, my doctor, he did say, HRT or antidepressants. But it was being able to sit down with someone who would talk you through it and understand and go, oh my God, it is totally your hormones. You just need the right amount of estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. And let's face it, our GPs, are pretty reluctant to give out the testosterone. I don't know. Are you still under the private clinic, or have they swapped?
I am.
Yeah.
I am. And the reason why is because I haven't got the energy now to indulge in a conversation.
That. Yes, I totally understand that.
And it shouldn't be that way. But I think it is going through menopause is such a stressful time for many, many women. And if you find something that works for you and that helps you thrive, why would you change it? And I know that because I'm on an off-licensed dose of HRT, I know if I go to my GP and start saying, off license, they will straight away say, you know, you shouldn't be on this. Well, there are lots of reasons why I'm on this, because one, I don't have my ovaries. Two, I'm epileptic, and my epileptic medication interacts with HRT.
Yeah.
And there are and because I just don't absorb it, you know, I just don't absorb it. So for some women, 100 microgram patch would absolutely be fine for them.
Yeah.
For me, it's not, and this is why we need to be looking at women as individuals.
Yes, we do.
We should, and we just don't see this, and it's a shame, because lots of other medications we prescribed individually, you know, we really do. And why should HRT be any different?
Yeah.
It shouldn't. It's a medication at the end of the day, and all we are doing is giving women back something that is declining in their bodies,
Yeah.
or in my case, doesn't produce.
Yes.
So it's not. I always say, who would have thought having our hormones back was a luxury? Because that's how it feels, doesn't it?
It does, absolutely.
It's not a bloody luxury. It's something that we have as women. We have these hormones. They're declining, or they're no longer there in our bodies because they don't produce them, you know, because we don't have our ovaries in surgical menopause. So it's not like you're putting something in your body that shouldn't be there.
No.
And, you know, transdermal HRT, it's so safe.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when it's not synthetic, it's, you know, it's not unsafe for us. So I don't understand, whilst you know we have all this HRT, why is it not being prescribed to the woman at the right dosages for them to get their levels optimal?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the reality is.
Yeah.
Every woman will have a different level in which they become, you know, they don't have symptoms of menopause
like a
anymore.
sweet spot where it just
Oh
hits.
God, yeah. I know that I am that woman that thrives on higher dosages of estrogen and higher levels of estrogen. And I know that because I test privately. Again, there's a massive cost involved in that, but women go to the GPs, and GPs will not test hormones.
But you raise a really good point as well, though, Lisa, in the fact that you might be given HRT, but it still might not be right for you. It's still, you've still got to listen to your body, and you've still got to work out what is, like you've said, the sweet spot, and it's not going to happen overnight. So you know, it does take a while, and it's. I mean, we shouldn't have to, but we have to be our own advocates when we do go to the GP.
Absolutely.
And I think that while we're being well informed and being very, I don't know, I suppose I can't think of the word right now, but you know, like we do have to advocate for ourselves. We do have to go in there with a list of symptoms and really explain what we're going through and how it's affecting our daily lives. And I think if you're able to do that, and what you're doing with your platform and you know, supporting your ladies, I think it's incredible, because we all need to do that a bit more, because they only have that hour training, don't they, on women's health. So the fact that we're going in there, sorry, go on.
And I think what also is important as a woman is not only advocating for yourself, but you have to advocate for all those other women as well.
Yes, you do. Indeed.
Because
you do.
The conversation you might have with your GP might well have an impact on another woman that's coming through the door with similar symptoms or a similar story to yours. And so I think that's where the work that I do with my ladies, I just see it as, I have this community of ladies that every single woman in that group I have so much love and respect for, so much so that's why I feel like, because I feel that I'm coming out the other side of it now, and I feel that I've now 6 years of suffering and then 2 good years. And this is the thing, 2 good years, I might start going downhill again at some point. And you never know. You just do not know, I think, with surgical menopause. But whilst I am in a good place, and whilst I've got a voice, I am going to make sure I advocate the hell out of surgical menopause, because there's too many ladies suffering.
Yeah.
And no woman should suffer.
No.
Life is too bloody precious for all of us to be suffering.
And there's no need for the suffering.
Need.
And that is the bit that is really bloody hard to get your head around.
We felt like it was a really big win when you got testosterone through the GP, didn't we?
Yes,
We felt like actually, because Michelle was getting it privately, and then you were able to get the prescription with your GP.
Yeah, so I just kept pushing and sort of asking the nurse, and again, every time I go back for my HRT check, because I went privately initially, and then the private clinic said that they'd send all the details. I don't know if you have the same situation, but they'd send all my details to my GP. Initially, I'd get the odd quip from the nurse dispensing saying, oh, you've got a full load here, because I had progesterone, I had the estrogel, I had the topical estrogen for your foo-foo that's gone out of my head, and so I've said foo-foo, but never mind, who cares? And so I was having those, and at that point I was still getting my testosterone through the private clinic, but that meant, like you, the tests. And then because I was having the tests, I had to have the appointment with the private clinic, and then I had to pay for my prescription fee, and then I had to pay for the testosterone. So it was a good few, maybe the best part of 500 quid. But I know it was the testosterone that made the difference for me in my mental health. But eventually what I got to the point was, as I got sort of stronger and braver and thinking, hang on a minute, what's going on here? We need to stand up for each other. I started having a conversation with the nurse in the clinic, at my GP's clinic, and eventually she had a word with my doctor, and he said, well, let's test her. So they gave me the blood test for testosterone at the GP, so that didn't cost me anything. And then he went, yeah, she is low. So they started prescribing me. However, they will still only prescribe me 1 month's worth at a time. So whereas through the private clinic, I could get a year. I probably could have got 2 years if I'd have pushed for it. But I'm only allowed 5 sachets, and I have to go back every month and pick it up, which is a ball ache.
But it's a small win.
It's a small win.
It's a small win, because then other women are going to be having those conversations, and
and it might resonate. It might resonate in the doctor somewhere. Yeah. Oh, Michelle. Yeah, she was falling off the planet, and testosterone did her good. It might work for you. So all we can do is be that voice, isn't it? While we can.
Absolutely. And I think the other issue that I have many issues when it comes to menopause and surgical menopause. But one of the issues I have is when women go for their bloods, if they are lucky to have bloods done, the GP will look at the bloods and say they're fine, they're within range. And I straight away say they might well be in range, but might not be good enough for you. They might not be at a level that is actually helpful to you. So again, it's just, they're in range. They might be in range, but then if this woman is having symptoms, she needs some kind of help there, doesn't she? Yeah.
But also 3 days down the line, it so fluctuates, doesn't it? Your bloods.
Absolutely. I mean, with women in surgical menopause, our levels don't fluctuate a lot, but getting your levels to an optimal level and then having and then maintaining them, it can be really, really difficult because, I see it with myself. If I have a virus, or if I'm just stressed, or if I'm run down, or whatever, I know when my levels are dropping because I start getting little symptoms creeping in. And like you were saying, I was somebody before I was on an optimal dose of HRT, a good dose of HRT, I was having the anxiety, the irrational thoughts, and they came out of nowhere.
Oh my God, yeah. It's the craziest experience ever for me.
And it's, and as a qualified therapist, I've spent years and years counselling people with quite complex mental health problems. And there I was thinking, crikey, this is really, really affecting my mental health to the point where I couldn't make sense of it. I couldn't make sense of it, so much that was going on. And it was really, really, I would have irrational thoughts about the strangest of things.
Yeah.
It was utter nonsense. Looking back, some of the thoughts that I had going around in my head, they came from nowhere.
Yeah.
absolutely came from nowhere. So it is really hard, and the anxiety, nobody tells you that how bad anxiety can be for somebody until you get to that place where you think you're too afraid to get out of bed in the morning.
Yeah, I was just scared to go in the back garden. My back garden, and it was just insane.
But we don't attribute it to that, do we? We don't. We just think, oh crikey, I'm just falling off the planet.
And I totally losing it.
We don't put it down to our hormones.
No, and I remember feeling that I couldn't leave the house. I had periods of time where I felt like I couldn't leave the house, and I would get all dressed up to leave the house, and then I couldn't get over the bloody threshold of the door.
Yeah.
And then it was just like gravity was pulling me back and telling me you can't leave. And it was, and trying to explain to somebody, look, I don't feel like I can leave the house, and those people thinking, gosh, she's nuts.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I think the reason why was because my home had become my safe place.
Yes.
My home was my safe bubble, and for whatever reason, my body was telling me, you can't leave your safe place. Stay here, you'll be safe. And you just have to keep on challenging yourself, but you have to be in the right frame of mind to be able to challenge yourself.
Yes, you do.
So it wasn't until I think my HRT and my estrogen started to improve and some of these symptoms started disappearing. I still had them lingering, but they were still they were still lingering. And then I just got to that point where I've got to do this. And I started, going for a walk to the bottom of my driveway. Mm-hmm. And then I got further and further. And before I knew it, I was like half a mile away from my house. But, it didn't happen overnight.
No.
And trying to explain to somebody that, well, I think what it is, you realise the things that everybody takes for granted, you can't do.
No, you can't.
And it's horrible. So I think these are the things that we need to be saying to women. Look, it can be bloody awful at times. It can be awful. It can be confusing. It can be tough. But there is a solution.
Yes.
And you've just got to find those people who are completely and utterly supportive of what you need. And it is hard, but those people are out there.
Yes.
I think that's the thing. It's just, and what I say to ladies, if you speak to a GP who is very ignorant to menopause, make an appointment and see somebody else. And if you have to go through every GP in that practice until you find the one that actually gets it, do it. It's a GP's job to support you and help you become well. That's why we have GPs. And if your GP is not helping you become healthy and well, find another one. And it shouldn't be like this. No. But it is for a lot of women. And like I say, I see it a lot with the ladies I support. So many are struggling, and they shouldn't be struggling. No woman should struggle. So I'm just very much, okay, right, tell me what your GP says. Let's find a way. Let's write a letter. I'm very, very into writing letters because I think with a letter.
Yes, wonderful.
Let's write a letter. Who's going to get a letter from us today? And it is very much, right, let's go. You've got to become educated.
You have.
Because, there is all this information online. Become familiar with the NICE guidelines. Become familiar with the British Menopause Society. GPs often misquote the British Menopause Society. So you can go into your GP and the GP will say, oh, we're not going to prescribe you X, Y, and Z because the British Menopause Society, and you think, okay, well, the British Menopause Society is a charity. It is a charity. It's a fantastic charity that does a lot of good work, but it is just a charity. And if a woman is coming in saying, I think I need this, your GPs often misquote the British Menopause Society. I have ladies who go to the GP and say, I'm on a 100 microgram patch. I think I need more estrogen. And the GP will say to them, we can't prescribe off-license HRT. You can't have it. There is a very high risk. The British Menopause Society says you shouldn't have this. So my ladies then whip out what I've printed for them, and it says, there are some women who need off-license higher dosages of HRT. And it's there. That paragraph is there. There are some women who might need this. And it throws the GP, because they're like going, where is this? So they're quoting the British Menopause Society, and there it is, as clear as the day. Some women might need it. So it's about really educating yourself, getting online, read, talk to other women. The best experts we have are women.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, we are the experts because we live it every day. And I think women, when they are advocating for themselves, often it's because they've had a conversation with another woman, and that's given them the confidence to then go marching in and going, I need this. And I don't ask anymore. I tell. I think I need this.
Yes.
I want this. And it's all about how we word things as well. But I say it like it's really easy, but it's not easy, because it took me 6 years to be able to get into that mindset that I actually have the right to ask for these things. I have the right to use them. And it is hard. A lot of it comes down to confidence, I think, with women. So we need to just be encouraging each other to find that voice, to become confident. And if anyone is like me, as soon as you hit menopause, the filter just disappeared.
Yes.
Basically.
Well, because you raise a really good point, because if you're feeling really low, and it's really hard work advocating for yourself sometimes.
Absolutely.
So I think having conversations with other women that are in the same situation, we all then start advocating for each other. And much like you've just said then, well, let's write a letter. And as soon as you get that person behind you, I mean, mine was my boss. She was like, you need to go in there and tell them that you need HRT in a patch. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go in there and tell them I need HRT in a patch. But we become very, it's so difficult when you feel so deflated and you feel so poorly all the time.
And you're anxious and you're panicking and you think, oh my God, what they're going to think about me when I go in and ask for this or demand that.
Yeah.
It's really tricky, and I think it's again, another sweet spot. When you hit that fuck it phase and you hit that, the right levels with your hormones, so you're feeling confident. 5 years ago, I was huddled in the fetal position on the sofa, you know, because of how I felt mentally. I would never have thought that I would be where I am now, walking into the doctors and saying, actually, the NICE guidelines and the British Menopause Society are now saying that women who are on 4 pumps of oestrogen gel, which is what I am, should be taking, I think it's 2 of the Utrogestin tablets a night, whatever. But I did. I just went in and said, this is what the private clinic had said to my sister, because she was on the same regime as me. And so I should be on that, because I should be protecting the lining of my uterus, and, you know, so they start to listen to you. But if you go in and you haven't got all that confidence and you haven't got the NICE guidelines and the BM, if you haven't got those things, it's easier to, you know, to say, no, you're on way too much already. So they didn't like giving me the 4 pumps of gel initially. You know, and when I go to the chemist now and walk out with my big sack for the 6 months, apart from the testosterone, you know, I feel like, oh God, big shopping bag full.
But it's like the whole testosterone conversation, isn't it?
Oh, it's bonkers.
Why it absolutely pisses me off, because when you think about it, we have these hormones. We have, as women, we have testosterone. But my ladies are having, the only way they're getting it from the GP is by saying, yes, I need it for libido.
Yes.
And
how bad is that? That's a whole different conversation, I think, Lisa. It's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
So why do we need a libido? Can I even go there?
Absolutely.
It isn't.
So,
oh my gosh! Yeah, just even starting that
it's like,
conversation.
I say to my ladies that they have that conversation and say, oh, I really would like to have testosterone. Oh, your testosterone levels are fine. They're within range. And, you know, the women then go back and they say, well, I think it might be the missing piece for me. And then they get turned away again. But they walk back in. I say, just tell them what they need to hear. And as soon as they say the word libido, the prescription is written for them. And you think, it shouldn't be like that, should it? So if that is how women have to get it so they can try it, then absolutely bloody say it, because, and again, there's this massive difference in conversation, isn't there, when it comes to testosterone? Some women say is that we look at the experts, and not even them can agree on testosterone and the effects of testosterone. And some people just say it's just for libido, and then you have other people that are experts, allegedly experts, and they're saying this, and they can't agree. So where does that leave us, really? But I know for me, testosterone, it not only affects my libido in a positive way, but it actually makes my brain sharper.
Yes, you've said that.
I have this mental
100%,
this clarity, and I think it is sometimes a bit of a slow burner, and then all of a sudden you think, oh, I've been really good this week because of X, Y, and Z, and then you realise actually it's the testosterone really kicking in now. For me, I probably didn't feel the full effects of it for probably about 2 to 3 months, to the point where maybe I would have given up on it. And I just thought, oh, it's not helping me. Then all of a sudden, I noticed I was doing things, and I thought, oh, crikey, that must be to do with the testosterone, because I haven't increased my HRT. I'm on the same HR, but it just gives me like my mojo back.
Yes, I'd say that's exactly how I felt. I was on the estrogen and progesterone for about 3 or 4 months. That didn't really touch the sides. Started on testosterone. Within about 3 months, I was feeling confident enough to go away for my dad's, it was his 70th, so we went to Wales, and I felt okay going, whereas before I was scared to leave the house. And then at that point, I had some results in from the private clinic about my testosterone, and they said, you're still low, let's pop it up a notch. So I popped it up a notch, and literally within a couple of weeks, I was like, felt totally back in the room.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? When you are stuck, when you're doing things that you have struggled to do, for such a long time, and I'm very much, women are treated as if giving them their hormones back is a luxury item.
Yes.
And it's not. It's just something that is going to, in the long term, make us, happier and healthier and thrive. And, many, many years ago, women were only in menopause for a few years because they died,
Indeed. We have the same again, hopefully,
we're lucky,
another
aren't
50
we?
years. Yeah, absolutely.
When you look back, many, many years ago, women would go through the menopause and probably die at 50. I'm probably at the age many, many years ago, somebody would die at my age, and they wouldn't have had, because I often hear it, and I don't know whether you ladies hear it, but I hear people, well, going back many, many years ago, they never complained about menopause. Well, because actually they probably weren't alive.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, we have got, as women, especially myself, I'm a carer for a young man that I fostered for a very long time. I look after my dad. You've got to, as a woman, you have all these different, roles, don't you, and jobs. And how are we supposed to do them if we can barely string a sentence together or get out of bed? And really, realistically, I think the whole menopause movement is amazing, but I still feel we have a long way to go.
Yes, we do.
And like I say, with surgical menopause, I think we have a very long way to go, but we're just having those conversations. What would I like to see for the future of surgical menopause? I would like things to change very quickly. I want more people who, are on, I call them the gatekeepers. I would like the gatekeepers, like the GPs and the surgeons and all the experts. I would like them to become more knowledgeable, knowledgeable of what happens post-op. I have no doubt that these people could do their surgeries with their eyes shut. But it's not about that. It's about what comes afterwards, isn't it? Women should be having counselling before surgery. They should be having a 6-week check, post-op check. Now, I've had a knee replacement, and they couldn't leave me alone. And in fact, to the point where, it's another check. And I was thinking, God's sake, I don't need any more looks. I don't need anyone else looking at my leg. But you have your uterus, you have your ovaries, your fallopian tubes, your cervix removed, and nobody wants to check on you. And you think, why is that? So yeah, I do think and if women definitely need
And knees
counselling
are a lot
before
easier
surgery.
to treat.
Absolutely.
Because we're all so
Absolutely.
bloody different, and I guess our knees might be different shapes, but you know, a knee's a
quite
knee.
simple, yeah.
Hormones.
Absolutely.
Hormones are
And
pesky
actually,
buggers. They are so pesky.
Absolutely. And I just think, I just, like I said, I think it's great that we're having these conversations. I think humour is just an amazing thing. And I think in the dark times, humour is what's got me through a lot. And hope, never lose sight of hope, because as long as you've got hope, there is all that I said on my Instagram, as long as you've got hope, you will find a solution.
Yes.
Whether you find it alone or whether you find your tribe like I did, and you find solutions together. But as women, you know, we are so resilient.
Yes,
women are so robust and resilient, and I just think we're such an amazing sex.
Oh my God, we are.
And I think we are the ladies that will make a massive difference for future ladies.
Absolutely.
Like I say, I've got 2 daughters, 26 and 29. I would like to think my nagging and letter writing and groans and all the rest of it, I like to think that will make things a little bit easier for them. And that is what we've got to be thinking about, not only for us to have a better quality of life, but future women, you know. So we just need to keep at it. Absolutely. Keep at it, because it might not feel it, but we are making a difference. But keeping the conversation going, talking. I don't care what I talk about anymore. You know, if somebody, I always say to the ladies on my group, if you've got a question that you don't feel comfortable asking, I will ask it. Yeah. Because I don't give a shit anymore. Yes. I will just ask it. If you want me to talk about vaginas or boobs or anything, I will talk about it. I will have that conversation, because if you need to know that information, other women will probably want to know that information as well. And I don't care. I will ask it, and I will ask it as if it's my question, and we will find an answer. We'll find some solution. We'll get some help. We will have that conversation. And that's how it's got to be. We need to stop talking about things that are taboo, and we need to just normalise everything and change the whole narrative around menopause. It's not some dirty little secret. We're all going to experience it. Women are going to experience menopause. And I also say, if somebody doesn't like the conversation you're having, let's start addressing why you don't like that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Instead of just sort of pussyfooting around thinking, I can't have a conversation about this because somebody feels a little bit uncomfortable, let's address that. Let's start talking about why you feel uncomfortable, because that is where the issue lies. It's not with us talking about our vaginas and our boobs and hot flushes. It's not about that. It's about actually so I'm very much, let's really get down to the nitty gritty. Let's really get, talking about the shit that makes you feel uncomfortable. It's how it's got to be, because we won't move forward otherwise.
I'd really like to talk about, you just mentioned about finding your tribe, Lisa. So I really do want to talk a little bit about you keep referring to them as your ladies, your group. I'd really love to just talk about how you found the group, how that all started for you, and the fact that you've got that wonderful support network.
So when I had my surgery, I started just looking online, because I had convinced myself that I was just a lost cause, really, that I was just losing. It was probably easier for me to think I was losing my marbles than actually this is menopause, because I didn't know anything about menopause, and definitely didn't know anything about surgical menopause. So I went searching on Facebook for menopause groups, and the ones that I came across, they were quite terrifying, actually. There was nobody really, in my situation. And then I came across a group that had, crikey, probably about 30 members in this group. And this group was started by a lady called Debbie. Now, Debbie started this group because, like me, she was in surgical menopause and she had nowhere to turn to. But after a short period of time, Debbie was struggling with her own surgical menopause, and she decided that she was going to leave that community. And she asked me if I would take over the group. So I thought, well, what have I got to lose? I'm here now because I've been searching for support and help. And because I suppose the kind of person I am, because obviously I'm a qualified therapist, and I've spent a lot of time counselling all sorts of people from all different walks of life. And there were so many women that I felt that I could use my skills as a therapist to help them. And so I said, yep, fine, I will take over the group. And that was nearly 8 years ago. So I was only probably 2 or 3 months into my own surgical menopause journey.
Wow.
Then. So I knew nothing. I was, so then I felt that I had this responsibility so this group started growing. It was growing and growing and growing, and not through advertising the group. It was just getting bigger and bigger. So we went from probably back in 2017 when I joined this group, maybe 30 people, to now having 4,300 ladies in this group.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so it then got to the point where probably about 2 years ago I realised I couldn't run this group alone. And because the numbers were getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and obviously I was still working as, a foster carer and doing the job that I do now, and it was really getting hard. In fact, if I could have just thrown in all my jobs and just focused on this, I would have done. But we all have bills to pay, don't we? And so I've been watching quite a lot of the ladies in the group, the ones that gave amazing advice, and I just thought, I'm gonna see if any of these ladies will help me run the group. And those ladies that were chosen, the chosen ones, they are my first texts or messages in the morning, and probably the last text I sent. We have become this group of women, and we talk all the time. So not only do we have the massive group of women, but we have become the moderators and myself, we've become this very close group, and we have supported each other within that little group. We have supported each other through some very, very difficult times. And I absolutely adore all the ladies, but the ladies that help me keep this group running, who dedicate their time for free, they're just amazing. I absolutely love these ladies, and they are my tribe. I've got a tribe within a tribe. We are just this.
But it's so important,
goodness,
Lisa.
yeah.
We talk about it all the time, about finding like-minded folk to spend time with and support you, and it's all about community.
Oh my God,
we feel really deeply about that.
And I think that's what I've lacked, because I live in the countryside and I live in a village, and I feel, because I like I say, I'm epileptic, I don't drive, I feel quite isolated at times, and I think, to be fair with you, some women still don't want to have the menopause conversation. So, and it's hard, isn't it? If you're going through something and other women don't want to have that conversation, it can be really difficult. So I've been living in my village for quite a long time, but I still feel very new here because I wasn't born here. So it's one of those situations where, although I've lived here a long time, I still don't feel like, I feel I live here, but I don't feel like a part of the bigger community. And so I I struggled with female friendships because, like I say, when I started going through surgical menopause, because the women that I were really good friends with, because they weren't going through menopause, they weren't even having perimenopausal symptoms, they carried on about their lives doing what they would do, and then there's little old me who was struggling with this, that, and the other, and and it's just people couldn't understand that. So when I found this group of women. And this group started growing and growing and growing and growing to the point where we are a really big community, and we are a friendly community. All these women are very supportive of each other. Yes, you do get times when you do have to remove people from your community because, it is hard. With women who are struggling with their messy hormones, often things can get a little bit out of control with how they respond. But the bottom line is this community is based on compassion and understanding and support and love and friendship. And that is how we roll, basically.
Yeah.
And I think that community has also restored my faith in people in general, because we live in a world where there's a lot of not so nice things going on, but when you have your tribe who are very loving and supporting and compassionate, and you have a lot of empathy for each other, it does make you feel actually the world isn't a bad place after all. And I think that's why it's such an important part of my life, because sometimes I think we all feel it. Sometimes we just feel like, oh, what is going on in this world? And for me, I love Mother Nature, and if I ever need to change my mindset or need to get myself into a different frame, a different frame of mind, I get myself into Mother Nature. I put the devices down and I go out and I just, engulf myself in my surroundings. So I think, for me, that community is so important. I think I will probably be a part of that community until the day I die, because we are just a friendly community, a supportive community, and it is all about supporting each other, educating each other, and I feel a massive responsibility for them. I feel that if I have the confidence to go out there and speak about surgical menopause and why the NHS and the country in general are failing us, why not? I might not be able to do it forever, but whilst I feel confident and whilst my messy hormones are very stable and I feel I can articulate, I wouldn't be able to have articulated anything, 3 or 4 years ago, because I wouldn't have would be too afraid or scared or anxious to speak out. And I think once you then get to that place where you feel you've got your mojo back, use it, absolutely, get out there, talk to women. But I'm just a massive advocate for women. I think that's the bottom line. A massive advocate for us having a better quality of life. We shouldn't be suffering. There is all this help and support out there. It should be easily accessible to us. So no, I'm very, very happy to share my story. But I think what I realise now is, looking back at the situation I was in, there would have been other options for me. So if I was going through now what I went through 8 years ago, there would have been different options: a total hysterectomy and bilateral supine oophorectomy, a bit of a godful. But that probably would have been a last resort.
But now people can come to your group and have those conversations prior now, can't they? They're going to be able to be a bit more informed. Can you give us the name of your group, Lisa, just for anybody that's listening that might be interested in?
Yeah, sure. So it's the Surgical Menopause UK support group, and we welcome all ladies who are in surgical menopause or who will be going into surgical menopause. We are massive advocates for HRT. But that doesn't mean that ladies who choose not to take HRT or who cannot take it are not welcome. We welcome everybody because we have a lot of ladies in the group that can't take HRT or just choose not to, and everybody is welcome. But there is often a lot of talk about HRT, but we are trying to change the narrative around HRT because it still has, in so many ways, it still has not a bad reputation, but we need
negative
to still
connotations. Yeah, we do.
There's still a cloud above it, isn't there?
There is, yeah.
There is, and I think the only way that cloud will diminish is through conversations and correcting people. Do not feel, don't feel worried if you have to correct somebody. We still have, if you take HRT, you're going to get breast cancer. HRT is not good for you. You should only take it for a certain length of time. If you disagree with that, have the conversation, because there are so many GPs that still need to be educated, and some GPs are very set in their ways, and but we're a new generation of women here. I think we're the women that are having the conversations and basically saying we're not standing for this shit anymore. We know what we need to help us thrive. Let's have it, and don't be afraid to have that conversation. And like I said, if somebody gets upset with you because you're having that conversation, let's address that. Let's not,
Definitely.
I think that's the way we have to look at it, really. If somebody gets shirty with us because, of talking menopause, let's have that conversation, because actually that's the one we need to be having.
Yes.
It's, I think we just need to, we need to just empower women. I think that's the thing. And we just need to find our voices and not be afraid to speak out, because your conversation might make a massive difference to another woman, to our daughters, to our friends. You never know.
Indeed.
Especially with surgical menopause, you never know if you might end up having to have surgery that will put you into surgical menopause.
Yeah.
So it's important we have those conversations as well. So just talk. I think that's the most important thing. Speak. Just don't be afraid to speak. Speak up and speak out. It's
thank you so much,
and just be very supportive of other communities as well. I think that's one thing. Yes, my focus is very much surgical menopause, but menopause is just so important, and we must just be very supportive of other communities. Absolutely, because I think there's empowerment in supporting women. Indeed. and I love that. Massive, and I think we just need to keep at it, keep chipping away.
It's just women supporting women, isn't it? That's what we do, and when we all start doing it, it's absolutely glorious, and it feels really quite magical.
Yes,
when we're all lifting each other up and we're all supporting each other. It's on a different level. I love it.
And just normalising it, isn't it? And I think that's the thing. I still have ladies who still feel very reluctant to have a conversation about menopause, even if they are in perimenopause or are going through natural menopause and so on. And and it's like, please don't be afraid to have that conversation, because there will be another woman who will happily go, actually, what you're saying is actually very typical of menopause.
Yes.
And sometimes, going back to what we're saying about the anxiety, the irrational thoughts, and all the other messy shite that comes away along with it, if somebody had just had that conversation with me when I actually said it out loud, actually, Lisa, it's really normal during menopause to have feelings of anxiety. It's very normal, and the reason why you're having this is because of this, and this. I might have been able to find a solution earlier.
Exactly.
So we're normalising it, aren't we? Just by having these conversations.
All about normalising anything menopause related, because you should never feel alone or isolated because you're too afraid to have those words leave your mouth, because it shouldn't be like that. No, but no, it's a conversation that we just need to keep on having every day. And I think, have it in the hairdresser, have it in the bank, have it in McDonald's, have it in
we do too.
It's
great. Even my husband was having the conversation in the hairdressers last week. He got 2 more listeners for us.
Right.
Oh, Lisa, it's been an absolute joy talking to you today. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
and
thank you ever so
the
much.
time's gone so quickly.
Oh,
An hour and 15. That's crazy days.
You need to majorly edit this.
No,
then,
No,
don't you?
not at all. It's
No,
been
not at all.
incredible. It's been a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so
No,
much
thank
for
you.
coming on the podcast. We
No,
really
thank you.
appreciate it.
No, thank you very much for having me. It's been lovely talking to you, lovely ladies. And let's keep the conversation going. Let's have a better, healthier group of women. You know, that's what we need. We need healthy, happy women who are just thriving. That's what we
That's
need.
exactly what we need. And that's what the world needs, right?
Yeah, because we need to hold everybody up,
absolutely.
right?
Because let's face it, without our hormones, we're just sometimes quite vile, aren't we?
We most
Certainly
certainly
can
are.
be, yes, indeed. Oh, thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Wild, Wise and Curious. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, feel free to email us at info@wildwiseandcurious.com or reach out on our socials at wild_wise_and_curious. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Stay curious and we'll see you next time.